Not cool at all.
Makes sense.
Oh, hi.
Hey guys, welcome to Church Chat. It's good to have you along. We're going to be talking about prayer, about the sermon from Sunday. Alicia prayed here. She preached here at
I
Parallel.
did pray here as well.
And prayed.
Yeah.
And I preached over at Parallel.
Did you pray as well?
Yeah.
Good.
That's good.
Good stuff.
Just good. So, yeah, how you going, Alicia?
Yeah, good.
That's good.
I'm feeling very energetic this morning, especially now that I've got a coffee.
Good. Awesome. Yeah, so we're doing like a little two-parter series just before Advent where we're talking about prayer. Particularly, this was sparked by some little booklets that we received that are to help people to learn how to pray, but also as an evangelism tool. And I think we're going to probably talk a bit more about that next week.
Yeah,
hopefully.
That's the plan.
But yeah, and so we looked through Psalm 34. What did you think of Psalm 34?
I love the Psalms. I love reading all of David's songs and prayers, and they're just so real, and it's about things that were actually going on for him. So like we see at the start of Psalm 34, this little note that says it's about when King David, he wasn't king yet, but David was pretending to be insane to escape from when his life was in danger, and he ended up getting kicked out by King Abimelech because he was just like, oh, this man's crazy, just get him out of here. And that saved his life. And I was like, that's hilarious, but it's just so real.
It's a very strange context. Like we talked about it on Sunday as well, but it's such a random kind of story. Like, how am I going to get out of this conflict? I'm going to act crazy. And it worked.
I'll just pretend I'm insane. Boom,
and it worked.
done.
And then he writes this psalm, which is so like elegant and well written out, and he's obviously not crazy. But yeah, it's such a good psalm. And I kind of talked on Sunday about the fact that if you're feeling like you're practicing prayer, but God's not answering your prayer, you're not alone, in the sense that King David, he writes Psalm 34, which is all joyful and loving and amazing. But he also wrote Psalm 22, which is the one that Jesus references on the cross when he's about to die, when he says, Lord, my Lord, why have you forsaken me? You know, and David was one who wrote that. And so he knows what it's like to have his prayers answered in this crazy, wild, wacky way, but he also knows what it's like not to have his prayers answered.
Yeah.
And so if you feel like you're waiting for God to answer prayers, I just want you to know you're not alone. And I'm not going to try and give you some simple answers to why God's not answering your prayers. But I just want to encourage you, you're not alone in that.
That's good.
How about we read the passage?
Yeah, let's do that.
Beautiful.
So I got Psalm 34, verses 1 to 10. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise will always be on my lips. I will boast in the Lord. The humble will hear and be glad. Proclaim the Lord's greatness with me. Let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he answered me and rescued me from all my fears. Those who look to him are radiant with joy. Their faces will never be ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him from all his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and rescues them. Taste and see that the Lord is good. How happy is the person who takes refuge in him. You who are his holy ones, fear the Lord, for those who fear him lack nothing. Young lions lack food and go hungry, but those who seek the Lord will not lack any good thing.
It's good. Yeah, it's a really good psalm. I quite enjoyed it. And for me, there was a couple of things that I thought this really spoke about in terms of prayer. Some kind of clear takeaways. Firstly, like God hears the cries of the lowly. Like you see in verse 4 and verse 6, he says, I sought the Lord and he answered me and rescued me from all my fears. And then 6 says, this poor man, which is David, cried and the Lord heard him and saved him from all his trouble. And I think, I don't know about you, but it's encouraging knowing that when I'm at my lowest, God hears me. And I especially find that encouraging when I don't always feel like God hears my prayers.
Yeah.
It's easy to be crying out to him and feel like why am I not hearing you answer my prayer? Like, I'm crying out to you, like I'm doing what you're telling me to do, but I'm not hearing anything, And it made me think, this kind of, this psalm, it made me think of Exodus, when it, just at the start of Exodus, it talks about how God's people cried out to him in their oppression in Egypt, in their slavery, and it says that he heard them, that he saw them, and there's this encouragement that God actually, it was like 400 years, but he heard them and he saw them, and that's why he sent Moses. And so it's an encouragement to me. I don't know how you feel about it, but it's an encouragement knowing that God hears us as we're lowly, when we humble ourselves before him and we say, God, I need you, to know that he actually hears us.
Yeah. I talked a little bit about that. I talked about some of the lies that we believe that stop us from praying. And the first one that I talked about is this idea that God's not even listening to us.
Yeah.
And so I drew out the verse 4 and 6 about how, David prayed and he just cried out to God in this messy way, real way, just cried out to him.
Yeah.
And God did listen. And God does answer. And that we can trust that we're praying to the same God, that we have a God who is listening to us, who is going to answer our prayers, who is answering them now. And we can trust in that God didn't abandon David and God's not abandoning us.
That's right.
That he is listening. Yeah.
And even in the times when it feels like he's abandoned us.
Yeah.
It's like that truth we can hold on to, that we know that he hasn't.
Yes.
We know that he is who he says he is.
Yeah.
It also, like, interesting in what you're saying, it reminds me of, I watched a sermon by Pete Greig, who's from 24/7 Prayer in the UK. And he was preaching at this church about prayer. And one of the things that they did together was that they were like, one of the things we don't do in the Western church is everyone yell out to God in the same time. We don't cry out like how it talks about people crying out to the Lord. Like, we don't practice just, all right, everyone go and yell. And he did that, and everyone just yelled out, crying out to God. And there's something about being in the community and doing that, like being as the gathered people of Christ, crying out, bringing our requests to him in a very, like, physical sense. Whether or not we could do that one day at Waypoint, I don't know.
That'd be kind of cool.
It'd be a bit wild.
Do that an all-in, so that we're all together properly and do it all together. That'd be
good. The second thing that I picked up from the passage was just the sense that, the truth that God is our provider and our protector. I think that's kind of all through this passage. Really. Because at the start, David kind of tells us why he's blessing the Lord. He's boasting in the Lord, proclaim the Lord's greatness with me. Let us exalt his name together. And then at the end, it says, in verse 10, it says, it says, you who are his holy ones, fear the Lord, for those who fear him lack nothing. And then 10 says, young lions lack food and go hungry, but those who seek the Lord will not lack any good thing. And so there's this idea that as we turn to God as the one who provides, because it's really in that sense, it's not just looking at God and believing he's going to provide for you, but it's actually coming to him knowing that he's the one, choosing to trust him to provide, rather than looking to my bank account or like looking to an idol or expecting it just to fall on my lap. But it's saying, God, I believe you're the one who's going to provide for me. Those who turn to him in that way, he will provide. He is the provider.
I've been really experiencing that for myself lately. Seeing God provide in ways that I didn't expect. And the more that he was providing whether or not I trusted him. The more that I've leaned into that, the more that I've chosen to trust him with my finances and with the things that I need, the more and more I've seen him go above and beyond in providing with great abundance for me. And so, I've experienced that a lot, and I see that in this psalm as well, that God is our provider. But it's amazing how much God provides for us and protects us, and even more so when we lean into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in those times when we're kind of still waiting for an answer to prayer, what you see in the Psalms is generally, for most Psalms, the start is this kind of bleak picture of crying out to God. Things are terrible. I'm in the pits, Lord, lift me out. And then the end, generally, for the most part, will end with this word of praise, this kind of affirmation of the truth of who God is. And so it's this idea that like these truths are what we need to cling to when we don't know left from right, like when we feel like God has abandoned us, we need to actually come back to the truth, which I think it sounds like that's what you were talking about in your sermons. That there are these lies, and when you're at your lowest, Satan's going to come in and try to distract you, discourage you, push you away from God and believe that he's not there, he's not listening. But when we're at our lowest, that's when we need to cling to the truth, even if we can't see it. And it was really apt that Darcy led worship and she led the song Waymaker. And in there's the lines of, even when I can't see it,
you're working.
You're working, and that's kind of what we need to grab hold of in those kind of times of unanswered prayer. Because, I mean, think of the Israelites in the Exodus. They were waiting 400 years, waiting for God to answer, but they kept crying out to him, and he heard. And I don't think it's that God just kind of sat up there waiting for 400 years. I don't really know why it took that long. But there's this sense of kind of praying and praying and praying, believing that God is the one to provide for you, no matter how long it takes, no matter what it looks like. Holding on to those truths is important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's good. And so I think for both of us, correct me if I'm wrong, the main action point and takeaway from this was from verse 8. I think it was, taste and see that the Lord is good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I talked about the fact that when we taste something, you can't taste it by just looking at it. You can't taste something by studying it or thinking about it. But we actually have to give it a try, give it a shot.
Yeah.
Actually put it in your mouth and see what it tastes like for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what this passage is saying in this verse. We need to give it a try. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Taste and see that relationship with him is amazing. Give it a try. Try praying and realize for yourself how incredible our God is and how much he does listen and he does answer and he is our provider. He is our protector. When we try praying and we give it a shot, we discover for ourselves how good God is and get to experience that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so we had those little try praying booklets to kind of help people, which I hope everyone got if they wanted one.
If you didn't, there's still some left over. We'll make sure there's at least some at each site this Sunday. So if you didn't get one, please do grab one. They're great. And we've got more. Yeah,
and so the idea with those is that there's like a 7-day kind of devotional. I've been doing it. I've done 2 days so far, and there's kind of a bit of, a preface, like, how do I put it? Kind of just telling you about, like, what is this prayer? And then it kind of says, why don't you try praying this? And it gives you a few ideas. And the idea is just to go through for 7 days and just see what God does with that. To see kind of how he answers prayers, how he doesn't. To see what he does inside of you, because I think one of the things that I've learned about prayer is it's not always about the answer to the prayer, but it's about what God does in us through us praying. If prayer is a spiritual discipline, then it's going to be doing something to us, building a reliance on God, helping us to tune into his voice, those kinds of things. And so try praying, read the book, give it a go. And then at the end of that, the idea is to give it away to someone. Is that right?
Yeah. So the idea is, so we've had this week, pray it. And then this coming Sunday, Barry's going to be talking about lose it. So we're not saying we want you to misplace your book, but actually lose it by passing it on to someone. And so now that you've tasted and seen that God is good, you get to help somebody else taste and see that God is good by passing it on, whether that be giving it to someone specific that maybe God put on your heart to give it to, or maybe leaving it in a coffee shop. Like we went to a coffee shop the other week on our way to a presbytery meeting, and I sat down while we were waiting for our coffee, and I found this random Gospel of Mark sitting there that someone had just left behind so that somebody else could pick it up. And we could do the same sort of thing with the book, leave it somewhere and see what God does with it, although we probably wouldn't actually see it for ourselves, what God does, but we can know that even when we don't see it, God is working.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, so I want to encourage you to give that a try and go through that. I think that probably the last thing I want to bring out from my sermon that I think is like probably the biggest thing to take away from prayer is we often are looking for the outcome of the prayer. And we often are thinking like, that's the key. Like when I pray, God does something and it's great. And that happens. But we also live in a time where we're still waiting for the new creation to come. We're still waiting for Jesus to come back to reinstate his reign over the earth and for all things to be made new. And so we're in this tension where sometimes God answers prayers and yet at the same time he doesn't. That some people are seeing healings while others are praying for healings and not seeing it for years. And there's no easy answers to why that happens. There's like Pete Gregg wrote a book, the one I borrowed from you, called
God on Mute.
God on Mute. That gives 16 reasons why God might not be answering prayer. But who knows? There could be hundreds of reasons. But I think the point to make here is that we live in a time where we have the Holy Spirit, where we have God's presence within us, and that's a beautiful thing. And so I think for us, the thing to be looking for in prayer is not just the answer to prayer. It's a big thing, but it's not the thing. The key thing is to be looking for God in our prayer. Like I think the actual joy and the blessing of prayer is that we can be with God himself. Like we can delight in him, we can dwell with him, we can sit and be in his presence, beholding him as he loves on us. And there's something beautiful about that, especially in the times when we're not seeing our prayers answered.
Yeah.
Especially in those times when we're praying for people to come to faith in Jesus and they're still all the way over there. I think I just want to encourage you that if nothing else in prayer, come to it expecting to meet with God and to be with him and to let him love you and pour out his love upon you, to know the gospel deep in your heart, to know his love deep in your heart. So I think for me, that's probably the biggest encouragement about prayer is that we get to meet with God himself.
Because prayer is not about us going to God with all of our requests and him being like a genie answering them, but it's about relationship. It's about us having a conversation with God. So it's not all us talking. Sometimes it's us listening because it's a two-way thing, and prayer is about the relationship that we have and cultivating that intimacy with him. That's what it's about, not about having the right words. It's not about whether or not you're good enough to come to God or just asking for things. You can even just tell God about your day because he loves spending time with you. And that's what prayer is all about, spending time with each other, with God.
Yeah, and the truth is Jesus says on multiple occasions to ask and you will receive. So we can grab that truth and we can know that even if he doesn't answer us today, he's going to answer us in heaven. But ultimately what we're looking for in prayer is a relationship to be with God and for him to be with us. So, I hope that's encouraging. I hope that wherever you're at with prayer, whether you've given up on it and you don't want to do it again, or whether you've been praying diligently your whole life, I hope it encourages you to keep trying, to keep going. Paul tells us to devote ourselves to prayer. I don't know what else you devote yourself to, but the word devote is such a powerful word. And there's another place where he says pray without ceasing, so I encourage you, don't give up on praying. Keep trying, keep going, keep seeking God.
Give it a shot.
It's good. So this week Barry's preaching here.
Barry will be preaching here.
I think Ross is at Paralawi.
Yes, that's right.
And so it's going to be all about losing it, not losing the gift of prayer, not losing how to pray, but giving the book away. So thanks for joining us. I don't know if this is actually going to be on the live because it looks like it's cut out. But we'll see you soon.
See ya.